I can't dance, Lily.
I do a mean in the seat dance. A real mean in the seat
Well, let
dance
me.
that everybody ain't ready for, but they love it anyway. But I do a mean in the seat dance. Outside of that,
What do you think about my shirt, Leonard?
I can't see what your shirt said. My black is
Equality.
okay. I'm about to say stop moving.
Anyway, hey y'all, how y'all doing? This is Hannibal.
And this is Jupiter, and welcome to Conversations with Hannibal and Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please have a sip of whatever that is. Is that a
That's
little bit of
moonshine right there, baby.
that's the moonshine?
That's a little bit Alabama secret, baby.
It's
That's
Alabama
Alabama
secret.
secret right there, honey. That will put hair on your chest.
All right, so let's
Make
clap for the
your
Alabama
beard
secret.
look full around you.
Let's get a clap for the Alabama secret. I feel like sometimes people just don't clap enough for the Alabama secret. I feel like you have taught me some really important Alabama drinks, and I think that is really wonderful that has happened for you, and you've done that. But before we do anything, let's remember, hey, everybody, we publish new content weekly. So hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the bell so you can be notified about future videos and content. So today, what are we supposed to do on a date? Like, we talk about going on dates. What you said?
We should at least show up.
Okay, so all right. So we've showed up to whatever, situation or place or time that this date was supposed to be at, and we are there on time. But what's the date supposed to be? How long is the date supposed to be? Now, I remember doing, I want to say eHarmony or something like that. And those kind of apps have a lot of like dating tips, like what you should do and what not to do and stuff like that. So they all caution on the air of safety. So it's always about meeting people in public, a restaurant, a coffee shop, something like that, a library, wherever you want to go. But they say things like that first date shouldn't be more than like 2 hours. And I do kind of agree to that. I think if I'm going to hang out with you at a Starbucks, 2 hours is about enough before they're going to start looking at me like, hey, your little latte is not warm anymore. Your hot chocolate, your hot chocolate is gone. That's that. But there are other things that we have to remember that like we can't do on first dates. Like, you may want to go see Black Panther, but we should not go to the movies on the first date. Like, where there's no communication happening. We're sitting there for 2 to 3 hours watching a movie and we are not talking. So the reality is, should I be here in a movie theater? Probably not. But then again, we should, I think the thing about dates are, it should be a collaborative effort. I know I tend to be a planner, so I'm like the worst person at making dates a collaborative effort. I will pick out a couple things that I think that we should do, and then usually the person will be like, no, I can't do that, or no, I don't want to do that, or that's, not going to work in my dietary restrictions or whatever like that. And then from there, we figure out something else. But if you're not into art, don't go to an art gallery. That's not for you. There's no need to stand around. It's, being in an art gallery for an hour is a lot of time when you're not into art and you don't really know what you're looking at. So.
True. Very true.
Are you an active person on dates? Like, would you do active dates?
Yes.
Like a bowling, archery, axe throwing?
I do all of those things.
Okay. On first dates. So that's what you. What do
on
you feel like
dates.
but on a first date at a gun range, can you even talk that much?
Yes, you can. That's when you ask the real questions.
Because I feel like that date seems more like interrogation and intimidation tactics more than
And it is.
actual.
Especially when they see you get marksman and then you turn to them and be like, do you cheat? No, but I definitely like active dates. Like, I don't want my date to be boring. I don't want to be sitting somewhere and we're just talking, be like, oh yeah, oh yeah. No, like I remember a really good date I had in New York, and the date kind of moved. So we started by just kind of walking and talking. We walked to the High Line, and then we got up on the High Line and we talked, and we picked up lunch somewhere and ate it on the High Line. And once we got through the lunch, we left there. We went down on the pier and, kind of walked, sat by the water, listened to music. It was an interactive date. And before you know it, 3 hours had gone by. It was like, oh, okay, well, we said that we were going to be done at this time, whatever, whatever. All right, cool. See you later. And it wasn't 2 hours later. It was like, well, hey, do you want to go out and get a drink tonight? I know this really neat bar. We'll be able to talk and actually still have fun. And so we did. And, it turned out to be like a really good, I wouldn't say relationship because we didn't really date, but we definitely were able to go out on, I guess I can't say dates then if I said we didn't really date, but you know what I mean. We didn't.
You had excursions. You went out on little
Yeah, we went out on excursions around the city, and it was cool because at the time I was kind of newer to New York. So it was neat to be able to go out with someone who really was kind of interested in me. I was kind of interested in them, and just kind of talk or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But the thing I also think that sometimes we have to think about when we talk about dates or going out is not only is a group effort, but what are our expectations anymore? Like, is he supposed to pay? But how do we say, is he supposed to pay where both of us are he? Unless you decide I identify as they. So if the question is he's supposed to pay, then I identify as they. So
Y'all pay.
Yeah.
It's multiple of y'all that y'all pay. It's one of me. Y'all pay.
Right. It could be that
Y'all
too.
eat more than I do.
Right. Or the idea of is there chivalry anymore? Does he hold the door for you? Does he pull the seat out for you? Like, do we have to find those heteronormative ways of dating?
Yes, we do. There is chivalry in the LGBTQIA plus elemental P group. Like, that is chivalry. That is chivalry. There is chivalry. So I'm very, very butch masculine, and I still enjoy someone taking the moment to open the door for me, and I open the door for them. Just because it is two males or two females in a relationship doesn't exclude you from being polite to the other person. Now if one wants to take on the role of being the one who does it all the time, then absolutely, and the other chooses to do something else. But we don't kick chivalry aside because the genders of the people involved are the same. We don't kick chivalry to the side. We should still pull out chairs for each other. We should still, um, I like to say on the very first date, I think you should split the bill. If you don't split the bill, then you choose a reasonable restaurant to go to. You don't go to, the Sundial and, you order the $200 entree and this child working Burger King.
He said, we're not getting the $50 Waldorf Astoria salad. We're not doing that.
Right.
But even that, I think that it also brings it back to, there are certain things that people think like, oh, if I pay for this expensive meal, I should do, do we still pull out on the first date because somebody bought us a nice meal? I don't know.
No. No. Now, so let me tell you this. You can be the slut that you would like to be. That is completely up to you. And if you choose to put out on the first date. There ain't nothing wrong with putting out on the
No.
first date. There ain't nothing wrong with meeting a person at the Starbucks and be like, woo, woo, okay, my apartment right here. You know, they and there ain't nothing wrong with waiting to the third, fourth, fifth, 10th date. There's nothing wrong with either one of them, you know.
I
But
guess in my
gonna happen is what's not gonna happen is there's not gonna be a value placed on on sleeping with me to equate to a hamburger and fries. That's what we're not gonna do. I think I'm worth more than a McBurger and a king
you said
size
I'm worth
fry.
more, a little bit more than this latte, and so I'm not gonna say.
I
Uh,
mean, I do love a good old pumpkin spice latte, but you could have to give me like 20 of those for sure. Like an endless supply.
I think
But
that, and for me, I also feel
so
like there is so much, not so much about like what that like that magical first date. I think at this age, that magical first date has been a fantasy that we've all talked about, but that magical first date can be whatever that date is with that person you're with.
like
But,
Cinderella.
yeah, but the other thing is, there are a lot of things that some of us do very wrong on first dates that we don't
Yes.
realize. Like talking about your ex and how bad he was is not really first date, material. Or, talking about, oh, I can't stand this town and all the guys here ain't nothing but hoes and they get on my nerves. And you're like, well, you live in this town too. So you saying me and you ain't nothing but hoes. So what's the problem? So there's certain things we shouldn't talk about because it doesn't really put you in a good light for anybody to understand who you are. You know,
And
being
I
overtly
also would
sexual
not talk
isn't the greatest thing in a first date.
I also would not talk about, like religion or politics on a first date. You know, let me tell you, I went out on a date in Atlanta. HBCU, double HBCU graduate, attending a HBCU to get his doctorates, you know,
You
Alpha Phi
know,
Alpha brother, Alpha Phi Alpha brother, prominent position, everything. I'm like, yes, we in the Mecca. We in the Mecca. Finna be a power couple. Ciao.
oh,
We sat down at this restaurant in Atlanta, and I'm like, yeah, we was having a good conversation. He said, "Now I gotta break some on you." So I'm like, okay, what's up? What's up? What's up? We done had good conversation. He said, I'm a Trumper. I said, oh, who do you play for? He said, no, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a Trump supporter. He said, I'm a very big Trump fan. And how do you feel about this? I looked, I said, baby, to the waitress, she was not far. I said, I need you to bring me 3 shots of Johnny Blue. She said, those are 25. I said, 3 shots of Johnny Blue,
so you
please.
needed hard liquor.
I needed good hard liquor. I turned back and I was like, explain to me, how do you do this? Because now all this good time that we've had this afternoon has just been washed away with the craziness that you just told me, my brother, from 2 Ivy League HBCUs that you have attended,
I mean, they say
and so
opposites can attract. So what?
it,
What was
opposites was about
what
to
was
tear
in
the
your
building
way?
apart. Trump, right there. Uh, we can't go no further.
You're not
I
supposed to
had
let
my
no man
drinks.
scare us under. Why would you do
uh,
that?
I had my drinks, and we continued the dinner. I said, you know what? Let's not talk about politics
Mhm.
because I can't handle it. And I love this restaurant we're in. This is one of my favorite restaurants in Atlanta. My food about to come out. I don't want. I don't want it to spoil before it hit the table. So we're not gonna talk about your religious practices and your political practices, and I'm not gonna throw my plate across the table.
But when were you going to talk about it again? Or had you already
Never,
decided that you weren't going
never,
to talk to him again? So this conversation was
ever,
never going to continue.
ever. But then he contacted me again, and
Mhm.
we actually went on a second and a third date, and it came up again. But I was ready for it then, because I was a little more comfortable. There were phone conversations
Mhm.
afterwards. I was a little more comfortable, and I want to get into that head because I need to see Mr.
So
Black
was comfortable
America,
for you.
man.
So this next time, the comfortable for you was you had 4 shots instead of 3. Is that what it
No,
was?
I was like, Mr. Black America, I need to understand like what happened, man. You done graduated from HBCUs, you're working on your doctoral, like you are who you are, man. You're an alpha brother, and here you are a proud Trumper. So I wanted to at that point get in his head and figure out what was going on. And to this day, we still text. We still text back and forth to this day because he's a cool guy. And even after all this craziness on January 6th, he still supports him.
So you can pick them, can't you?
Baby, like nobody else can.
I love it, but I don't love it. Um, I could
Oh.
say one of my weirdest uh, dates was I went out and so meet this guy at a restaurant, and he, I can't say I was catfished, but the catfish was like in the breading; it just wasn't in the pan, and so he looked like himself aged to the present time that the date was. The photographs that he had sent me were, you know, younger photos, and his age was not a problem. I actually like the what do you call it, the company of an older gentleman, but I would like you to be honest about it. Like, don't say you're 40 and clearly you're 65. So it was kind of like, I get it. The grandson didn't show up, but the son showed up. But really, the grandfather showed up. So it was just really interesting about how he was so okay with acting like, why are you acting like you don't notice me? But the thing I was more thinking was, you kind of don't really look like like you kind of favor this guy I'm supposed to be meeting here, but you look about 20 years older than the guy I'm supposed to be meeting here. So I don't want to just approach this strange person. So I did say his name, and he was like, hey, like, when were you going to speak? And I was like, see, what we're not going to do right now is make it seem as if you knew this was me and you didn't
Right.
speak, and now you acting like, oh, because you've been standing here long enough, now you're going to talk. No, that's not the storyline. You presented yourself much younger than you were at the present state, which once again would have
Mhm.
not been a problem if you had not done that up front. And then he proceeds into talking about how he had a son that is gay, and his son is very open about his life. And he had some family members that have said some things about his son, and how he would kind of cut the family down, like, you're not going to talk about my son. My son is living his truth. Unfortunately, this guy was extremely closeted. He is still married to his wife. They live in the same home, but they don't share a bed or anything like that. He is not out to anybody. And he's very clear about how, he lives his life, how he lives his life. And his current still wife, kind of put in a couple of years with him. So, like, she had the right to his pension, and he felt like, she had the right to all the things that he had because she had, basically married somebody who was gay, who never came out the closet. And so, she kind of
So
lived
she
for free.
deserved it.
Yeah, she deserved the stuff. And so I thought, well, then why are we on a date? Like, this clearly isn't going to go any further than this, because I don't think she wants me to come over for dinner. And your son seems to be actually a better option than you are. But he was very clear about how closeted he was. And uh, I, I don't know. We summed the date up. And the next morning, he sent me this long monologue about how, you were a nice person and, the date was nice, but, you're in a place now where you seem to be very argumentative. And I'm at a place where I don't have time for that. And I thought, so me asking you why you're still in the closet, but you're so okay with your son being out of the closet. Like, I didn't think I was arguing, but clearly I was very argumentative. And he just wanted somebody to just say, hey, I'm just gonna take this old catfish and he gonna send me old pictures and I'm gonna meet him at a restaurant and he has a wife and I'm supposed to, have sex with him in the alleyway of his house. Like I just didn't understand what this storyline was.
Wow,
So
that's a lot to unpack.
that was a lot, and then, so it was just very odd, but he was very clear. Like I said, this whole thing of no, you're a problem. Like you ask too many questions. And this is going to be a long-term problem for us.
So also one of the things that you should not do on a first date is overdrink. Like I have seen some people on first dates and they are like staggering, and I'm like, baby, like, am I that hard to get along with? To where you want to fall off your bike? Well, let me prop you up in a corner like a broom.
But this is those
Maybe the bartender get you home.
Right, because I know that people like to say, oh, I just need a little drink to take the edge off. But sometimes I think there's a line between having a drink, it's like over here to take the edge off, and then over here when you have gone to basically public intoxication and this is no longer taking the edge off, I think you may have a problem with drinking. Like, it just doesn't help. I had a friend who once told me she met a guy at a restaurant, and when he got to the restaurant, he was clearly drunk. And then she went and under the table, she was on her phone telling her cousin, now listen, you're going to call me in about 5 minutes and I'm going to FaceTime with you. And she said, just yell and scream. We got to do something. And so her cousin calls her in like 5 or 10 minutes and it's like, it's going crazy. Where are you at? Like, and so the guy was like, no, go handle that. You're going to go do that. And so she was like, I had to get out of the date. She said, but while she was holding the phone and, the cousin was FaceTiming, she's saying to the waitress, like, could you wrap my stuff, please? Because it was like,
wrap my food up, baby, because I like the food here.
I got to go. I got to eat once this emergency is over. So, I mean, I do remember back in the day doing that, like telling friends, hey, I'm going to be at this restaurant. If this goes bad, give me a phone call. Like you had those kind of signals. I think now we don't really do that as much.
I still do it.
Okay.
I do. Just because it's a safety protocol. Back when we were in the scene, we didn't have those cell phones with GPS trackers and things like that.
No.
So you tell your good girlfriend, child, I'm over here. The address is 1234 Willow Lane, honey. Apartment 226.
The last house on the left.
Right. It's a blue Ford parked in the driveway. This the tag up. Because it was a whole safety mechanism that you had. And I find myself now, if I'm going somewhere and I get that sixth sense feeling, just that sixth sense feeling that something is not right, I'll text my best friend Ryan, or I'll text Bliss, my best friend, and I'll be like, hey, this is where I am. Sometimes I'll even send a picture. This is what I am. This is who I am, meeting or whatever, because it's just a safety mechanism of it, and I'll always make sure to like make a phone call right outside the door so that my phone pings at where I am, because I'm watching, every murder mystery show out there,
Right.
so I'm watching it. Like, So it's just those safety mechanisms that
And we all
I
know if
still
we
do.
don't do these things the first 48 hours, things start to turn into a cold case. So we don't
Right.
want to do a cold
I've got to help the detectives out. Okay. So I've got to leave the signs there.
case. You
The
like
last text he
pulling
sent
you
said,
pulling hair out of your hair and your beard and sprinkling around the house.
he was here.
But I think another thing about
Maybe.
a safety thing is I think sometimes we've become very comfortable with not feeling safe because it's like, oh, I'm a man. Ain't nobody gonna do nothing to me. Like, I'm gonna be fine. But it was going on when I was younger, and it's still going on today. People are spiking people's drinks. Like, it's still happening now. Like, don't wake up and get chloroformed by some crazy hoe. Like, it's not just on the Charlie's Angels episode. Like, these things are happening. And so I remember like not doing things behind people, like don't drink behind somebody or whatever. And I mean, if you partake in say wacky tobacco, some people be like, oh no, it could be lace, so don't do this. So I think that there are
And
certain
remember the old heads would tell you if somebody buy you a drink, you get it straight from the bartender.
you
You'll never bring you no drink.
let them bring it up.
You get it straight from the bartender. Right. And you watch the bartender when he make it.
Right. And make sure that they not friends. He won't be into something and they ain't on it together. Yes.
Matter of fact, you grab the bottle, make it yourself.
You just tell her, oh, don't never mind me. My mother told me to be safe, so don't worry about it. I'm gonna be okay.
Matter of fact, just walk in the bar in a condom.
What do you think about first dates and them turning into like the expectation of them becoming a relationship? Like, I think that's another thing sometimes people have to realize that, like, as much as you have the expectation of somebody to show up and not be a drunk and not be a jerk and everything like that, but we also have to have the expectation that, you know what, sometimes first dates don't work. They're okay. You were nice. You were cool. We had good conversation, but it ain't going nowhere. And sometimes it's the body energy, when like, because like, do we really still have first date kisses? Like, are we still doing that? Like, I know I have not done that ever before. Like, I've never walked somebody to their door and kissed them and said goodnight. No. Now, in the car, I'd slob you down in the car or the train station or something, but I've never driven up to somebody's house, walked them to the door, and then said, had an awkward little back and forth. No, I was real grown real early. So it was like, listen, I may not get the pin, but I'm going to get some. Right. We going to do something, So now I know that that's sexual assault and I don't do that anymore. But back then, it was me being assertive. And so that's what I did. But now, like I said, do we still have those expectations?
So I think if the date went really well, I find that when I was in New York, it was not an expectation. It was kind of just like, oh, let's hold hands. And that was kind of your expectation. Nowadays, I think the kids that move so fast, honey, they going on past a first kiss, child. Can we get a first cream? And, like, on the date, I mean, oh my God, they do so many things. They do so many things.
Hold on, I forgot my knee pads. I'll be right back.
You go on a date with one of these 20-year-olds and they want a lot of stuff on the first date. I can't do it. I'm too old for that. We're gonna have to talk about what we do on the first date at 40 after the long-term care facility.
Is church a good first date?
Only if you're both very religious.
Okay.
And only if you're both very religious and the church you're going to is an affirming church, then church would be a very good date. Like the churches I went to in Atlanta, I would say would be a very good first date if you're religious, because it was very live. It was very interesting. The bishop brought a good message. It was very affirming. You felt good when you left, and then you go to brunch afterwards.
I mean, clearly you don't want to go to a Trump rally. I mean, you're real funny about that. So clearly we will not suggest anybody go to a
No,
Trump rally as a first date with you. You act real funny about that. So
real funny,
that's
real
that real
funny.
that's that real uppity you that was living in, Atlanta and now moved back to Alabama. That's so uppity of you. Like, what's wrong with somebody
Hmm.
going to a Trump rally on their first date? But
I'm the neighbor with the Black Panther flag in the yard. Yes, that's me. That's me. Yes.
let me ask you one more question.
Hmm.
Is there an expectation that your date really comes across and showing their best foot forward? Like, nobody's perfect. And I know everybody always says, like, oh, first impressions mean a lot, but how much do you really hold on to that first impression? Like, because I know some people hold it like first impression, this is like in stone, this is it. And sometimes that first chemistry, that first date, you may not have every piece with that person. And then the next time, it could be fireworks.
I don't really care about first impressions unless it's something very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you slap the waiter. That's that's gonna be a first impression that I'm gonna remember, and we're not gonna have a second impression. I'm going
But
to
if
be
you
dead.
slap the waiter, that's not a problem. Is that what you're saying? But your date can't slap the waiter?
If I slapped the waiter, then the waiter had a reason to be slapped.
Okay.
But oh, no, but like, I think sometimes when you're on dates, you're so nervous. The first date, you're so nervous. Like, I think people need to relax and learn to just laugh and have a good time. That's why I think having a moving date is a really good idea. Like going to the park and then going somewhere else. Your date kind of moves along, and then have an escape plan for your date. And if one of you is feeling the other and the other is not, understand that we planned on this escape plan for this reason. Let's escape. Okay. I am pushing the escape button. Alt control delete. You're supposed to go away. Like,
Because I think we've all been on those dates that you're like, I'm here, play along and get along. Let me get through this
mhm.
coffee or let me get through this lunch and call it a day. And then all of a sudden he's really handsy and you're saying to yourself, I have literally sat in this chair the whole time like a statue. Why would you think that all of a sudden playing footsies or touching my leg is going to wake me up? Like, I've literally all night.
and and then the new generation is like this the whole day.
That's another thing. Yes. Your phone has to be not an issue. I do let people know, I am a single parent. If something happens, I want my phone, I want to be accessible to my phone. But I'm not texting my child and I'm not talking to the sitter. Like, you're not doing all of that stuff. But, and I've been on dates with grown men, grown. He's 57. And when he sat down to the table, he took his phone and he took a selfie of himself at the table. And then he posted it. And then it was just like, is this literally happening? Because in my head,
No, I'm gonna tell you what that was. I'm gonna tell
I'm
you
thinking
what
in
that
my head,
was. That was
you
a
look
safety
I wouldn't
mechanism.
have posted that photo. Me personally, I would have not posted that photo. But
That
for
was a
him,
safety mechanism so that his friends from back, his friends know, okay, first 48, I was eating this sandwich right here at Joe's on Juniper with this food.
he stayed on the phone a lot. So he wasn't just being safe. He was just rude. It was just rude. And you
And I've
can't
walked
be
away
on
from a
your
date
phone.
like that.
You can't
I've
be on
walked
your
away.
phone.
Yep, I've
Mm-mm.
done it. I mean, someone that I was on a date with, and they're like, "Oh, I'm interested," but I mean, people are just texting me and work. I said, "Well, you know what? I am busy too. Like my last corporate job kept me busy, and the job before that, when I was working in the prison system, kept me busy. I was an on call person for the prison system that I was in. So anyone with phone issues should have been me. I mean, you work in retail. So, child, out of size 34 pets. I don't
First of
understand.
all, there was a mannequin emergency, which you're not going to say.
And
Is that not
hold up,
retail?
hold up, retail world. Don't come for me. Don't
That's
come
what
for
I'm
me.
trying to
I ain't saying retail ain't important. What I'm saying is there was not a real emergency at the time. You know, you're just on your phone. So I'm gonna leave here and you can have lunch with your phone. Simple. And so I did. I got up, I summoned the garçon, and he'll be paying for the meal. Here's your tip. And I got in my car.
But you do have to understand, be careful of that now, because in Atlanta, these restaurants are already putting a gratuity on for one person. So don't be so quick to give a tip at restaurants. Sometimes, and I'm not saying don't get tipped here in Atlanta, but what I'm saying is a lot of these restaurants are already placing a gratuity on before you sat down. So the waiter's performance has nothing to do with the fact that they already snatched your money from you.
And so also in Atlanta, you can refuse that gratuity.
I did not
You
know that.
know, it's not one of those things that's mandatory. You know, they
Okay.
have to have it posted, I believe, at the door
Mm-hmm.
that it's a mandatory gratuity, but you can always refuse it. Gratuity is not considered a price. You know,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong. You know, don't quote me, but I'm almost sure that it can be, you know, what do you call it? I just used the word. You know, my brain is old. Anyway, you can fight them on it, child.
See, yeah,
Because
I
I'm
mean,
not giving you an 18, 20%. And Keisha, my water jug been empty since we came. And you see
I've
how much I like
always,
water.
yeah, I've always, yeah, moonshine water. But I've always been in the mindset of just knowing like tips were earned, not deserved. And to me, when you slap a gratuity on a service before the service is even started, it's already saying I deserve this before I've earned it. So,
Mm-hmm.
so speaking of earned and deserved, we don't deserve to be treated that poorly on first dates. We don't deserve to treat people poorly on first dates. We don't earn the right to have sex because we paid for dinner, nor do we deserve it
No.
either.
And I don't care how many lattes you purchase.
No, you said pumpkin spice lattes. You said your life
Pumpkin
changes with the
spice.
pumpkin spice.
Mm-mm.
Well, on that note, we are going to let you guys go. This has been a fun little conversation of the do's and don'ts and the will and won'ts of first dates. And I want to thank you, Hannibal, for making this fun as usual.
All right, y'all. We're gonna get y'all some going away music here if Jupiter can figure out the button for going
Right.
away music.
So y'all want me to be that DJ now. Okay. So this is a DJ thing. I didn't know
Come
that.
on, Jupiter.
I'm okay with being a DJ. I won't stop it. You know what I'm saying? I really won't.
Please don't
I think
stop
it's
the
very important.
music, the music,
Okay,
the
Rihanna.
music.
Yeah. So, like I said, I have no problem with giving us some outro music.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.